I am Marwan Cameron, and this is the Conduit. All right, y'all, we are back. 2 shows in one day. I don't even know if I'm going to get any rest, but we had Lindsay, Nurse Lindsay from Kids at Public Health, talking about um, the vaccine through a pediatric lens and giving us a lot of good information. And now, of course, it is 3 p.m. So you know what we do every Monday at 3 p.m. We have Bremerton Housing Authority on and KCR. So Jill Stanton and Matt Garrett. We've missed Matt for the last few weeks because he had back surgery, but he's back here today. So we're excited to have him. So let's go ahead and bring everybody on. Without further ado, how are the both of you doing today?
Great.
Hey, Marwan, thanks for having me.
Oh, again, Monday is my favorite day. So, we're going to turn it up. It's Monday. That's right. Raise the roof. Let's get excited. We got to get excited. It's what is it? A bomb cyclone? Like, what is going on in the weather? Like, I've never heard that term before. Have you heard that term?
No, it's crazy.
Bomb cyclone? Like, in all of your life, have you ever heard of a weather event called bomb cyclone?
No.
Well, you remember there was the polar vortex a few years ago, right? So Marwan, my question is the National Weather Service, are they just rebranding? Like, do they have a new PR person that's coming up with new names, or is this actually different crazy weather?
Well, it could be a little bit of both, but I definitely sit up and pay attention. You say it's a bomb cyclone. Like, okay, what is this? And how bad is this going to be? What's interesting is they didn't, looking at Saturday and Sunday, they were saying, oh, this is going to be a California thing. And I was like, it's coming down from Canada. I think it's going to hit us a little bit. And sure enough, we got the winds and everything else. So it's like, all right, guys, so, be careful. There's some, pretty powerful winds out there. There are folks that have lost power and, so just kind of take care of yourself. It's a good time to winterize, right? I believe KCR might even have some programs for winterization. So maybe we even jump into that since it's important. But Matt, since you have been gone for a couple of weeks, we want to start with you. So give us any updates on the eviction assistance program.
Yeah, so there's going to be some changes coming down as far as the actual. I'm excited to get into that when that happens, but they're not here yet. So the program is largely the same. The big one before I left was that landlords have to agree to that 6 months. But next week will be good because there is some clarifications on commerce. So next week, Marwan, when I get a chance to review those kind of just came down this weekend. So next week I'll have some more updates on policy wise. But this week I did want to give a few answers to where we are as far as the pace. So our wait list has jumped up to about 600. So we really went way up as far as people waiting on the wait list. Part of that was because we had a member leave to pursue their education, which is great, but we've been short-staffed. So, and then part of it was just as we get closer to the bridge potentially ending, and as landlords are ramping up, I think there's more and more people that are applying, and rightfully so. And we're glad they are. We definitely apologize for how slow it is going right now. This is not what we want it to be, and we've just hired. All told, we've hired 4 more new navigators in the past month. So we've got 4 new people. 2 of them just started today, and we're still hiring 1 more. So I think I blasted it out to the outreach partners, but anyone that's listening, if you're interested in helping us and have experience that you think would help, and we get people from all walks of life that bring all types of experience. And so don't just disqualify yourself if you don't think you have social service experience. We have a lot of different people that can help. A lot of some people that have experienced the services themselves. For us, that's usually a positive because it means they know the systems and understand, what it's like for folks. So we like people with all types of experience. The biggest thing is, that desire to help and to work with people in crisis, and that patience and understanding. So we've got that position open, and then
what names of the position, is it navigator?
It's rent assistance navigator. Yeah, rent assistance navigator. Yeah.
You just type in that chat.
Yep. And then we also we'll spend the next probably few weeks hiring for a manager. So right now, Jessica and I have been co-managing that Jessica with Housing Solutions Center, and we're finally, which we're really excited, going to be a lot more admin support. So if anyone is interested in that, please apply. We haven't had as many applicants as we would like. So if you're interested in joining the team in a management admin position, and then Marwan, that'll be great. Once we get them trained up, we'd love for them to come on, introduce them, and
Oh, I love it.
next.
I
Yeah.
like that. So everyone can kind of put a face to the navigator.
Mhm.
I like that idea.
Yep.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
the people that just started now, what is the kind of training period time before they kind of feel like they're comfortable and, you know, they're not afraid to make a mistake, you know?
Yeah, our goal, I think I said a few weeks, our goal was by mid-November to double our output. And I think we're still on track. So I'm training them just about every day. We're doing 2 to 3 hours of training every day this week to try to get them up to speed. So this week and then next week. So I think it's probably going to be around mid-November that I would expect them to start kind of running. That gives them enough time to read, you know, to have some training with me and to shadow the existing staff that have been doing it. So the good thing is two of the one of the navigators came over, had experience with other programs with us. So she comes with already a lot of housing experience. And then the other was our front desk. So that Wendy and Stephanie. So they're joining us. They're getting either transferred or got promoted from within. So we're really excited about that.
I always love hearing that. Promotion from within is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a good reward, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Stephanie did a great job as our client engagement specialist up front, and she's bilingual. So she'll be working with a lot of our Spanish speakers. And so really excited to have her on board. And then we just hired two more new staff. And so, yeah, I think we're still, you know, maybe by the time we actually really get efficient end of November, December, but November 15th, I would expect our new staff to really start taking on applications. And, you know, it's also, we're in crisis mode, as you know, right? So it's part of, they know, and we're letting them know it's kind of a learn on the job right now, right? It's like all hands, you know, we don't have time to do a nice long orientation, right? You know, it's kind of a baptism by fire situation. And
there you go, in the deep end.
Yep, you got to throw it in the deep end. But the way we try to do that is pair that with a lot of support from our admin, right? You know, our jobs are tough, and so we need to be equally supportive of our team, and we really try to have a big office support culture and really help our team, because they do a lot of work. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with hiring. We also, if anyone's interested, we have other case managers. So we have a lot of positions open at KCR right now. So if anyone is interested, please go to our website, and we would love to consider you for some of our open jobs.
You know, just something that kind of popped in my head. I don't know if there's, you know, legal issues or things that can be centered around that, but is there a way that maybe the buy-in force can process some of that paperwork for a stipend where you wouldn't have to hire? They already kind of know a little bit. If they're processing paperwork for clients that didn't come in through them, so there's no conflict, could they be, you know, leveraged in that way?
You know, that's an interesting conversation. I'm open to having that. You know, I think some of the issues there is the actual processing fiscal paperwork, right? Like you would really need to, you know, be a KCR employee for the fiscal side, and that's why we've tried to encourage the buy-in fours. Like when we need the help, we ask, right? You know, we ask like, hey, we need help with this, and so I think that's one way of just like straightforward that we can continue to do is like help us get this, you know, on the way. As far as the formal contract, you know, that's something to talk about. We're going to pilot, because Commerce has a newer program, and they're hiring some folks on board to actually help with processing applications. So we're going to pilot that with a few and see how that goes, if that helps out. But so we're considering other options of how to move this wait list down, because the goal is to get the wait list to 0, right? You come in and a navigator starts working with you right away. So that's our goal. And so, but we're going to need a lot of help to get there. So, I mean, the RAP team has grown. You know, we're trying to be at about 9 by the end of this. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll hire that last RAP navigator, maybe even one more. So we'll be at 9 or 10 actual staff processing applications. And then obviously we have the new manager as well. That'll be huge for administrative support. So that's going to be a big bump. Then these commerce folks, and then we can, I'm definitely open to having the conversation to seeing if there's a way some of the buy-in fours, if they're interested in doing that type of work. It is, it is a challenge for sure because clients, we know that clients are frustrated with, right, they just want, and they're in crisis mode, right? So it's frustrating having to gather documentation, so we understand that. And so I think we're definitely gonna have to work all together. And I want to give credit. There's a lot of the buy-in fours that are already doing that right now, right, helping us gather documentation. So some of that is definitely already happening. I want to definitely give credit to the organizations. I think most of them, when we ask, are very, very helpful helping us. So definitely want to give some credit there already.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, please be patient. Now, let me ask a question, because I think this will be helpful. We had I think a person come in that wasn't kind of on the rolls, but just had a question. They had started the process of rental assistance, and it's in the process. And so the landlord is starting to feel like, oh, you're running a scam on me. I should have got the money by now. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
And so what I thought the advice would be is, go ahead and send, KCR an email and then share that with the landlord. So the landlord understands, no, this isn't a scam. This is where it is. This is just where it is in the process, and just have that conversation. What advice would you have for someone that's, kind of dealing with that? The landlord reluctantly is like, okay, I'll deal with it. I'll go through this process, but it's taken a while. And now they're just like, I don't know. I felt like I should have been paid by now, and they don't really understand the process. And the renter is feeling like, I don't want to get evicted. I don't want to make the situation worse, but I don't know what to do. Just what advice would the two of you have for that person? What would be the best pathway forward?
Yeah, great question, Marwan. Actually, really good question, and we are dealing with this. And so, right now, anyone that applies for the program should get a letter or an email with documentation saying that they've applied for the program. They're not yet qualified, right? They still got to get qualified, but that they've applied. And what we intended for that is that that's something that they can give to the landlord, saying, hey, I've done my piece, because they really have. When they're in that position, there's nothing more they can do except wait for the wait list, right? Or if they're coming from a buy-in four or a keep it outreach, they skip the wait list. But right now with the delays, we're even the navigators are backing up a little bit with the keep it outreach organization, again, which we hope to address in the next few weeks. So that's what that letter is supposed to intend, is here's something official, KCR letterhead. Now, if a client doesn't get that, please let us know. Probably someone on our team made a mistake or you didn't get that, but you can always, or we can print another one if you lost it or it went to an email or something that you don't have. We can easily send you a new one or write one if you're on the wait list, and then you can give that to the landlord. And then the landlord is definitely free. They can call the front desk, or landlords can call me directly. That's fine as well if they have questions about the program specifically. So clients, we always try to direct to our front because we just have so many. But if there's landlords, they can call myself. They can call the front too, and a lot of the landlords do. And then if they're still having issues, they can always talk to me about the program and how it works. But that's what that letter is for. We call it a letter of attestation, basically attesting that you've done your piece, and then now it's just you're waiting for KCR.
Matt, while Jill answers, you mind typing that in the private chat there, and I'll go ahead and put that on the screen for everyone.
Yeah, I would just say, same as Matt, I'm not overly familiar with our process as far as what the letter says that they get, but I'm sure that they get a letter. And we have a much smaller program, so people call us all the time. People can call me, they can call our community connections team, and we'll figure out where they're at in the process. I don't know exactly the timeline on how fast we're turning over rental assistance, but it's probably, I know it's probably faster than KCR right now because we don't have near as many people.
600, right? I mean, that's a massive.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
And we've talked about this on previous podcasts. I mean, we'll I want to say beat a dead horse. I don't even know where that saying come from. Skin a cat. There's all these weird sayings that are out there. but you got to cultivate a relationship with the landlord, right? So don't avoid them, even if they're saying, "Hey, I'm going to evict you if you don't have this or that or the other," whatever the conversation is. Just ingratiate yourself, have that conversation. If you have that email documentation or the letter of attestation, or you can provide them with the phone call with the phone number so they can call and verify on their own and get that comfort, then that's going to go a long way to keeping that relationship as positive as can be. So I definitely encourage you to do that. So Matt, what else is going on at KCR? Any update on other KCR information? We were talking about maybe weatherization. I'm not sure. I don't think that's your department, but um, and there's like PSC, uh, electricity or gas assistance. If you need that to keep the heat and the lights on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ian is the manager of weatherization, and then Julie manages our energy, and so I can get you those contact as well. Um, but yeah, weatherization does a great job of they do a lot of different stuff. Sometimes they're able to help put new materials in the house to actually help weatherize it, right? Sometimes that can be roofing material or insulation or window, right? Really depends on the case. And I don't want to speak too much out of my expertise, but if you have any questions, kcr.org, go into the weatherization or energy tabs as well. You can get some more information about that. And there is a lot of confusion between we have an energy department and then we have our KEPA energy program, right? So there's some overlap. Our energy department is that's some of the long-standing energy assistance that comes through our contracts up there. That program is different than the KEPA program. So if you've applied for instance with if you've done that for a while or you're applying for energy assistance, that doesn't mean you have a KEPA application because the KEPA runs through our housing energy department. They're their own separate application. And I know it's confusing and it would be nice to have a master system, but right now the grants are so separate, we really have to run it separately. So it does not disqualify you if you've gotten energy assistance from Kitsap Community Resources Energy program or that department. That does not disqualify you from KEPA. You can get both, and that is okay. The only thing we can't do is duplicate the same month. Like if you got assistance 1 month for energy, we can't do that for KEPA. But as long as they're different months, they're okay to get energy assistance from both programs. And then the rent assistance, the energy definitely doesn't qualify you from rent assistance, right? So you can, that can be overlapping because those are two different things.
Absolutely. And can I just say, and I'll ask if you guys think this is a good idea, get yourself a little notepad or a place in your phone. And when you go and you talk with someone or you call in, get the name of the person you spoke with, right? So a lot of times you'll call back and you'll say, well, I talked to this person and they said this, and that. And it's like, well, who'd you talk to? And it's like, oh, I don't know who I talked to. But it's a lot harder for you to get help if you don't know who you spoke with. So take those notes down and ask questions, right, folks? If you may not have known that you can use both, right, or how you can use both, and now you've missed out on an opportunity for a huge resource. I can tell you, my electric bill was $500 last month, so some electricity assistance would have been fantastic. So use that. It's a big deal, and it can make all the difference. But you have to ask. You know, don't be ashamed. That's what the program is there for. It's designed to help you out. So just write those things down and keep yourself a little notepad, a little 88-cent little notebook. If you got to get a big one, that the kids have in the school, 88 cents at Walmart, and just, housing, electricity, phone, cable, who you talk to, what you talk to, what was the date. And now you kind of know when things have happened, and it helps you to stay organized because if there's a lot of anxiety, you can feel overwhelmed as you're taking all this new information. And it's just a good way. Well, I talked to Matt on Monday, and this is what we talked about, and this is the phone number, and he said I could email if I had questions. Boom, now you're good. Because when you get a chance 2 days from now, when the kids are finally asleep, and you look at it, and it's like, what did he say 2 days ago? And it was so important. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we don't. No, there can be a lot of shame, and that's why we get trauma-informed training, motivational interviewing training, racial equity training, right? Like this is all stuff that all our especially our housing team, but we're also working on getting our RAP team. They're just a little newer of a team, but because the goal is, it's not to shame clients, right? We don't, and it can be a dehumanizing process to get assistance, especially you got to knock on doors and you have to fill out all this paperwork. It's confusing. And when people are in crisis, there's even a lot of evidence, right, that it's hard to actually understand complex concepts and actually figure out assistance. And so, that's why we have navigators. That's why we try to have people to walk them through, and we want them, and if there's, issues, you can call myself. I just put my number in the chat because our goal is it to be dignifying, right? I always tell my staff is one of the deeper things I believe in what we're doing is not just helping people with rent, but helping them actually feel human dignity again through a process that removes a lot of dignity from folks. The eviction process, right? Working with your landlord, trying to be behind, and for all good reason, right? The pandemic, the economy, pay inequity. There's all these huge issues of why it's so hard to get caught back up. So you're right. We definitely want to destigmatize shame. It's there. It's there to be used for folks because they are humans and they deserve a warm house, right? They deserve to have a roof over their head for their kids. That's something that we believe. So you're absolutely right, is that we don't want it to be a shameful process. We're here to help them and actually get them the resources that they need. And Kitsap Community Resources when we're at our best, right?
And I was just singing the praises of Lori. I was telling Matt before the show, Jill, that Lori came on and talked about what she does and helps to remove that anxiety and help, as a navigator, can't remember what the position is called, but just to kind of advocate and be the voice for the client trying to find the house and how powerful that is, because that is really scary and the stakes are so high.
Yep, I 100% agree with what Matt said, and I think the Housing Authority we're renewing our commitment to great customer service, where we really where the people that we serve actually experience our compassion. That's kind of some of the language that we've been using around here, and it's really important. These are human beings. This is a very stressful situation for them, and we have to step up to the plate and do our job. So to that point, we decided to go ahead and open the Housing Authority to the public again this week. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So our front doors are again open, just in the mornings for right now. But we just decided, we can't have people knocking on our side door and they need help and standing out in the rain, filling out paperwork. So we do have masks are required. We have sanitizer everywhere. But we just felt like it was time. We can't keep operating this way for our clients. So
I got to give you a horn for that one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Little things mean a lot. It goes a long way for sure. It really does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let me switch to you, Jill, and I'll come back to Matt on the last question that I had for him. But, I ask you every week about the Bridge program, and you actually sent me on. Is it okay if I pull that link up for everyone?
Yeah. I think that this was just published last week by the Washington Multifamily Housing Association, and it's just a real kind of quick overview, but it gives a nice down lower, it gives a nice outline of a possible timeline towards eviction and some of the things that have to happen before you get there now. So I think it's really important for landlords to understand this. You have to go through this process, and also very important for tenants to understand this and when they need to respond to things. So it talks a little bit about creating a payment plan. I think it talks about the importance of having it be in writing so that both parties agree to it and sign it and have proof of that. And then it talks about engaging in mediation as well. So it also has links to the actual notice that people can use when they have to notify residents of these various things that they can do. So it's just a helpful, easy read. As far as I know, I haven't heard, and I don't know, Matt, if you've heard, but I haven't heard any talk about them extending the eviction moratorium beyond October 31st, which means starting November 1st, rent is due and considered late.
Matt is shaking his head. So we've got a week before it sounds like this thing really is going to kick in and be official.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay. Um, wow. And so are these guidelines or is this like the new kind of law to process for eviction that landlords are going to have to go through with trying to create a payment plan, or can they go straight to eviction? Do you know from this?
No, they can't go straight to eviction. They have to go through the process now.
Okay. Okay.
So that's good. That's the law. Um, so the other kind of good news is so the city of Bremerton is in their budget meetings right now. I do believe that they're going to continue the rental assistance program that they partnered with us on. So they give us 100,000 and then we match it for a total rental assistance program of 200,000. And we have been struggling with that program because the guidelines, the city guidelines for how we operate that aren't super flexible. So I've been talking with them about it, and it looks like they're very interested in engaging with us after their budget passes in maybe making some modifications to that program so that we can use more of the money per family for even maybe a longer period of time.
Okay. All right. That is good to know. So I just want to read this red part here. So it gives an example. I want to make that very clear. This is an example. This isn't how it works, right?
Right.
Eviction moratorium bridge timeline. This is an estimated timeline of a hypothetical termination process once the eviction moratorium bridge proclamation ends. So the bridge is going to end on Halloween. November 1, rent is due and considered late thereafter. On November 6th, they can serve offer of a repayment plan, serve eviction resolution pilot program, which is the ERPP, or a notice, and a 14-day notice may be served concurrently with the offer of repayment plan. So then that would result in 14 days later, November 21, offer for repayment plan expires, the 14-day notice expires, and that ERPP notice expires, which is that eviction resolution pilot program. So on November 30th, 30 days later, serve unlawful detainer action. And do you know what that is? I don't, that's pretty technical for me.
That's basically the notice of eviction.
Okay, that's a notice of eviction. And then on December 13th, the tenant's response to unlawful detainer action is due. And then 2 days later, obtain an order to show cause. And then January 4th would be a show cause hearing, and that one appearance right to counsel. And then January 11th, a possible second show cause hearing judgment, and or tenant receives access to tenancy preservation program. So it sounds like if this whole process were to work its way through, a person might still be in their home until the new year while they're trying to go through this process. That's an example. Not to say that's exactly how it's going to work. There are some terms and definitions below. So I definitely encourage you to click on this link and read. And then there's also a contact here at the bottom, the 425-656-9077. Call, ask questions. Again, even if you're in a position right now that you're paying your rent and you're on time, that's all well and good. You don't know what kind of hard times can befall you. I mean, you could have a breakthrough COVID, right? That could take you out, and you were going to work and now you can't pay your rent. It could be anything, right? So it's just a good idea just to know about this information, have a general idea of how it works, You may have a friend or a family member that's going through this and they're stressed out and they can't even process the information, right? Because it's so stressful. It's like I'm being evicted during the wintertime, during the holidays. And so you can help them through that process. So, again, even if it's not you directly, someone else can benefit by you taking a look at that and helping them process through that. Anything else you want to say about that, Jill?
What's that?
Is there anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think that's about right. That covers it. Just people need to take responsibility and take action early, is what I would say.
Wow, it's here. I mean, we got an extra, what, 2 months reprieve, was it? We thought this thing was going to end 60 days ago, and it got extended. It's tough because on the one hand, it's like it's so awesome they extended it. It gives everyone more time. The problem is it's extended into the winter, so it's like it's a double-edged sword for sure. So, oh man, all right. So it sounds like there's going to be even more work to do, and understand KCR has 600 people waiting for help. So if there is any way that you don't put yourself in at 601 or 640 or 700, do what you can because it's going to be a minute before you're able to get the help if you can get help. So, do everything you can, folks. It's so important. Jill, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that can be done about online applications where explanation may not be possible? And so I'm thinking of a few folks that have some things that on their credit that they owe, and so they were like they were told by the credit agency, it was an apartment complex. It was like, well, if you can't pay by the end
Unknown
of the
caller.
day, I apologize. If you can't pay by the end of the day, then your application isn't going to be processed. So they've lost out on that time. It's very demoralizing, right? They've taken a look and a walkthrough. So is there anything that they can do when these are big agencies that are uh, kind of processing these applications and people have all of these caveats to their application?
Yeah, it's really tough. We're really advising people to try to go with the smaller complexes, even single owner landlords, that have just a few rentals, because then it's just easier to work with them. Their rules aren't as set in stone as a bigger complex would be. That being said, if they do apply to bigger complex, I think always trying to pick up the phone and get a hold of the property manager, maybe even before you put in your application, so that if you can explain, well, I've got this and I've got that. Is there any way I can get around, just automatic denial based on these things? And so that would be my only advice. But yeah, it's tough. We have 90 voucher holders out shopping right now for homes, which is, in one sense, is super exciting, right? Because we've got these people with their vouchers, and if they can find a place, that's going to be great, especially before Christmas. But it's 90 people, and we're doing everything that we can to help them. One of our wait list, so how we pulled the 600, we've almost exhausted that at this point. And so we're going to turn our attention to really helping those who have received a voucher get all their paperwork in, and start looking for housing. They have 120 days before their voucher expires, and we're doing an automatic 90-day extension right now. So they'll have more time, but it's just get on it now. If you're one of those voucher holders, get on it and let us know how we can help you. Don't just suffer on your own. Call us if you need help.
And that's something, right? When you think about you've got 120 days, you've got a third of a year to try to find a place, and it's like we're going to automatically extend it another 3 months. Like, wow, you're talking about 7 months to try to find a place. That's how hard it can be to find a place. And then again, that's those 90 vouchers. Matt's saying there's 600 on the wait list that are trying to make sure that they stay in their place, so they're not looking for a place, right? So you can see the crunch. And these are people that need assistance, not people that are moving into the area or their lease is up and they're just going to downsize or upsize or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of flux going on, and there's not a lot of housing in the area. So this is highly competitive, and you've got to be prepared. You also have to be patient, give yourself grace, work on it a little bit at a time. Work with Matt, work with Jill, work with Lori, work with the navigators, because that's going to be your best option, right? And so, any of the tips and tricks of the trade that they can help you with, how you present when you go to a location to look at a space, what you say to them, how you speak. All those things, right? They tell you you only have one time to make a first impression. That's important, especially if it is a smaller unit, and they may have to say to the homeowner, yeah, you know what, they were really nice and they seemed like they would take care of your unit. So, you know, you've got to present well, both verbally and how people perceive you. So that's really critical. Would you guys weigh in on that? I got to stop saying so much and let you guys do the talking.
No, you're exactly right, Marwan, and especially for folks that we typically are case managing that are experiencing homelessness, the application fee and hidden fees behind that those have gone up dramatically even during the pandemic. So we just ran into this the other day as we had a voucher holder that we're working with that paid the $45 and then couldn't go any further without a $300 deposit that they weren't aware of, but that they had to pay in order to hold the place or even be considered for the place.
Whether
And
they get it
so,
or not, right?
yeah, whether they get it or not, yeah, that they had to pay. And then they're coming back to us and we can pay that if they get it. But the problem is by the time we figured it out with the property manager, that place already got rented, like in the day that we were trying to figure it out. So it is for our clients that are relying on our assistance in Bremerton Housing Authority. It's an extreme challenge, and I have a lot of empathy for how hard it is right now. The thing that I would say, anyone with a voucher, even if you're not working with us yet, if you have a voucher and you're experiencing homelessness, a car, you're at a shelter, you're fleeing domestic violence, you will qualify for our move-in assistance, especially if you have a voucher. So you can make sure you've come into KCR. We can pay rent, deposit, and first month's rent, because a lot of the voucher, if you're not on the EHV program, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, but if they're not on EHV, there's not deposit assistance, correct?
Actually, that's usually correct, but
Okay.
we did set some aside of our unrestricted funds
Great.
to help with that. But they should definitely get a hold of you, but and us too. Maybe just
Okay.
both. If you're going to need that assistance, get a hold of both of us.
Yeah, and what we can do, especially for voucher holders right now, is get in contact with us, and also you can potentially talk with you if you're a voucher holder and all that's getting in the way is the deposit, or they're a little concerned. And if you're in that category of experiencing homelessness, we can potentially pay a higher deposit to get them in. So that's one, if you're in that situation, and you're so close, talk with us. You have my number if the landlord wants to talk, but we can pay a higher deposit for folks that are experiencing homelessness but have a voucher. So that's one tactic that they can use. But it is. And even for us, for our rapid rehousing clients, that are unhoused, when we're trying to get them in, the application fee, we can pay that as part of the program, but it's just the landlords want that so fast that it takes us a while, right, to get a check or even to get a credit card. So it's a big challenge for us. Even we can pay it, it's just the speed at which things. So a lot of times we say, okay, hey, I know it's tough, but if the client can pay the application fee, which is typically $40 to $60. And we're not saying that's no small change, but then ask them ahead of time, are there any additional fees? And then say, if I'm qualified, KCR can pay that plus more. So that's what we are instructing our tenants. So if you're in that unhoused category, we can do that. Get in touch with us and BHA, and then use that as some of your negotiating skills, as like, ask them up front, is there a extra deposit? And then let them know, oh, I have assistance for that. And the law changed, 2 years back, is they can't income discriminate. So they might try to tell you that you need to pay this up front, but you should be able to say, oh, KCR will assist me with that, and they can't discriminate against that income. So that's one tactic, if you're unhoused and have a voucher, that you can try to use. I know that's not everyone that has a voucher right now, but we have money for moving assistance for folks that are unhoused. It sounds like, Jill, you have some money you're setting aside for folks that aren't. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, we do have some, and the thing is, it hasn't been utilized. But I think a lot of that is because people are just struggling to find units. So, yeah.
I had a couple questions. One, let's say that a person does feel like, because a lot of times it's really so hard to prove. What if they feel like they were being discriminated against because they had a voucher? What might be some of the telltale signs that that might be the case, and where should they go? Should they tell you? Should they, you know, document what they believe they're feeling or experiencing?
They should definitely tell us. We're not attorneys, so there's not a lot that we're going to be able to do about it. But if we're getting that information and there's a certain landlord that is doing this over and over again, we are going to take it to like the Northwest Justice and let them know. So we would definitely be interested in knowing that information. And they can take it to Northwest Justice themselves as well. But yeah, definitely the Housing Authority wants to be kept aware of that. We can also talk to the landlords. So, which we're doing now, just not maybe on an individual case by case basis, but if we're hearing this landlord is asking questions about my income, about the voucher, how much it pays, and then saying, oh no, this was just a little bit above that. Let us know, because we're happy to call and try to educate landlords on what is legal, and also not from that perspective of trying to catch them, but from the perspective of really trying to educate them as to why they should rent to a voucher holder and what those benefits are.
So let me ask. So if I'm applying for a house, right? And they have the application. It's going to ask me if I have a job. Is that correct? So if they're not supposed to ask me about my income, do I? If I say I don't have a job, is that an automatic trigger? Because then it's like, well, how can you pay the rent then?
Yeah, they can ask you about your income. They just can't discriminate against you for your income. So they certainly will ask that question, but yet you can say my rent's going to be paid for with this voucher.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
That's a sort. The voucher is not considered income for the purposes of like your income taxes or your tax return, but it is considered a financial resource, much in the same way that say child support or something like that may get counted towards your total resources. So if there's not a separate line on the application, you can use that income line to say usually the applications will have some like other income, and that's where you would want to say I have a housing choice voucher program. um, it pays 100% of my rent if I have zero income, or you know I would pay 30% of my income towards my rent, and then the voucher pays the other 70.
Would they want to know? Would it be fair for them to know how they were going to pay that 30% if that was the part that they were responsible for?
If they have a job, yes, they could. That would be okay.
Okay. See, these are questions I actually didn't know. So it's great when I listen to you and these things pop in my head because I'm hoping other people might have those same questions. So another question that I had is if you're
Can
a
I jump
voucher
in there,
holder,
Marwan,
yeah,
before we
please.
go? Yeah, so I just wanted to add the telltale sign of income discrimination is if they say, "Oh, I don't work with housing assistance programs."
Oh,
That's the telltale sign. If they say, or if they say no Section 8, or if they say, "Oh, I don't accept KCR assistance," that now is illegal.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, you
wow.
cannot discriminate. That is absolutely illegal. And we, just like Jill, we've passed names to Northwest Justice Project. So I just put the clear in there. I think you just put it up. Yeah, you can definitely let clear know. I know there was some local attorneys that were starting to work or even sending some letters to landlords that were, found that were doing this. The big ones tend to be more with the laws, and like Jill said, it's not always nefarious. It's just some of the smaller landlords might not even know that they're breaking the law, right? So sometimes just a
Unknown
letter
caller.
can let them know. So I think, yeah, reporting them to clear, and it's a tricky thing. We've worked with some landlords that we've talk with them and say, hey, you can't do this, and they've begrudgingly said okay, but then the tenant doesn't want to go there anymore for fear of being targeted by the landlord. So it's really it's kind of a no-win situation sometimes. Of even if the landlord says fine, I'll accept this, but then the tenant's like, well, I don't want you to be my landlord anymore, right? So it's really yeah, I mean, it's really tough, and I empathize with tenants that are doing this. But the more we kind of get out there and let people know and let landlords know, hopefully the less this will happen.
Well, and what I would say to that is, although you may not want to move into that place, what you're doing is you're making that opening for the next person to come in and move into that place. And so the place you get into, maybe someone else opened that place up for you. So it's important that you speak up about it and don't just dismiss it because, again, it could be nefarious. It could be just, straight ignorance. They didn't know. And even though you don't feel comfortable, there's 600 people. There are 90 people, right? And those are the ones that, are seeking help right now. So there's so many more that are going to come behind that. So that's the way that you get it out is through that education and sharing that information. So my question was this. I think we had someone watch. So what happens is we'll have our podcast. We have a few people that will watch it live, and then we have a ton of folks that will watch it later on, right? So some of our older podcasts are probably at 100. And so they were asking, if I'm not mistaken, is there help with moving costs? Like, I need a rental truck, whether they're a voucher holder or not. Is there any kind of resource there?
I'll just briefly start and then Matt will give more information. If you have an emergency housing voucher, we can pay for moving costs. If you have a regular voucher, the housing authority does not have funding for moving costs. But for the 38 emergency housing vouchers, we do. So then I think KCR, though, you can speak to it. I think that's who you would want to contact.
Yeah, so it's going to depend on your situation. If you are one of our unhoused clients, then you'll actually be with a case manager and potentially, yes. Now, it's depending on the expense, and we'll try to work with you on that. But if you are unhoused and you're getting move-in assistance or part of our rapid rehousing program, potentially, right, depending on what it is, and we try to work with the tenants to get them in, but you have to be in that unhoused category and approved for our rapid rehousing program. Now, the KEPA program, if you are being displaced because of COVID, right? You're actually either being evicted because of COVID or have to move because of COVID. There is potentially, that's not a huge number of folks, but if you're approved for the program and you can show that you're being displaced because of COVID, there's potentially some resources there for relocation, but you have to really qualify for that program. Most folks are using that for move-in costs, right? But there is potentially some money there for relocation.
And shout out to Northwest Hospitality, Anton Pressinger. He has a really awesome program that has things for people that move in, vacuum cleaners, things like that. If you go to his website, he has everything inventoried, which is awesome. He even has clothes. Do we know of any other nonprofits or organizations that do anything like that folks can access and try to leverage to help them offset those costs?
There's this small organization, Gather Together, Grow Together. I don't know if you've heard of them, Marlon.
That's what I was going to say.
That's usually, we usually refer to you for these types of requests to kind of help out. No, and I shouldn't say small but mighty, right? You guys have had a huge impact, for your guys' size. So I know. I'm actually generally curious because I know you help with. Actually, can you help educate me? I know you help with Rise. Have you ever done moving too, or I know you do a lot with transportation. Can you help? When does your transportation kick in, and can you do moving, or how does that work?
So that just depends. I would say that we have folks that are always looking to have extra money, and so they'll moonlight. And so we'll have folks that say, yeah, I've got a truck and I got a couple guys, and they're willing to do some side work. When we can, we've done some unique things. Now, this isn't typical, so I almost don't even want to say it online, but we had a person who contacted me from my neighbor, and they were looking at eviction. and they had nothing. They had expended everything. So I think they were trying to, continue to pay the rent. And so this person called my cell phone, right? Because my neighbor had my cell phone, and so didn't call G2. And so, they're telling me the story. They're beside themselves with, I don't know what to do. Like at this point, we don't have dishwashing liquid or toilet paper or paper towel. I mean, toothpaste, razors, feminine products. I mean, just the whole thing. And I said, well, I don't know what we can do. This isn't typically what we can do, but send me your list. And it was a list. And I actually did a podcast last week where I showed it. And I said, I was going to do a podcast, but I'm actually going to go out and get some of those things. And so I picked up about half of them, and then the team was like, we should get the other half. So there was like a king size dog bed and dog food. We got everything on the list. It was over $300 and delivered it to her home. That's not typical of what G2 does, but it's just something every now and then it'll be, kind of a one off. So, folks can always call, and if we can do something, we try to find those unique ways to do it. There's no specific way on how we decide. It depends on, how the influx of money that we can use in that way looks, and we just try to do that and change someone's life. And in the letter, she said, in 40 years she hadn't been met with that kind of kindness from, a stranger. And so, looking at that hope scale that Kitsap Strong uses, and other organizations, I think that's really important to try to, give people that hope, right? We can't fix the eviction situation, but to let you know that we see you, that people care about you, even if we don't know who you are, and we'll try to do what we can to help you. So that's just one of our recent stories last week. I think that was last Sunday I went and did that. So, um, yeah, give us a call, and we'll see what we can do, or try to put you in touch with Anton or others, and try to leverage that. Right now, we've, as far as moving folks, we have done some of that through G2. I was working for the United States Navy earlier this year, and one of my coworkers was being stationed in Djibouti. So she paid G2 to move everything into storage and get her ready to go to Africa. So yeah, we can do little things like that. So, and obviously we'd be a lot cheaper than, um, an actual moving company. And, we can do things like, if they sign a waiver, we can rent the truck, because a lot of people don't have credit cards and things like that. So, they pay, we put it on the card. And so, yeah, we can do things like that.
Hmm. That's awesome. Well, and big shout out to you, Marwa. You've helped some of our clients get into their transitional housing from homelessness, and even help transport some of our unhoused clients. So definitely want to give you guys a lot of credit for helping our case managers out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And again, if it has to do with eviction assistance or vaccination, transportation is free. So, just keep that in mind. We've earmarked that to support in those two areas, because we know that's such a big deal. For sure. So thank you for the shout out, because I don't actually put G2 stuff up very often. So, there's usually guest on, or I'm, you know, philosophizing about something else, and I've got this crazy stream of consciousness about whatever, and I just don't even get to it. So I'm horrible, right? But I have one more question for each of you. This has been just a fantastic information chock full hour here. Um, Jill, are there any BHA program updates?
Um, Other than what I told you earlier about our offices opening back up, there's really not. Again, 90 people out shopping with vouchers, so we're just working nonstop on trying to help them find places. We had initially talked about doing another week-long open wait list, and we've decided to not do that right now, just until we can get some of the people who already have vouchers housed, or just see what that process is going to look like. But we are planning still, we usually do it once a year, so we are still planning for next March. And we're getting a new software program to help us with that process, and also to help us with um, the review process, and the payments to the landlord. So kind of got a lot going on.
And what I'll say to that is, landlords guaranteed rent payment from BHA. So, that's a heck of an incentive right there. And two, unfortunately, the moratorium is about to end, so there's going to be movement in the market just because, so opportunity will present itself. So, please keep that in mind. And then for you, Matt, um, can you speak to any current housing challenges that maybe you've seen that we haven't talked about today? We talked about the, things on people's application that make it a little bit harder. The fact that they can't find a place to use their voucher. Any other things that we haven't talked about that you are seeing?
Yeah, we've talked about it on past podcasts, but I'll just mention again because one of my case managers is working with someone that is moving in our rapid rehousing program, and they're doing a rent increase on that place that she's at now, and now we're looking for a new place, and the rent increase on that place, and then even places from even just a few months of looking. She's been looking for a few months, and she's seen places go up and up with rent. So the rent increase is it really even took me by, and we try to keep up on kind of what it is, and my kind of average. And I because I told her, I was like, oh, that's kind of high. Are you sure? Like, that's, we can't find anything cheaper. And she's like, no, this is what it is. And she was totally right. Is even in just a few months of increase of what a 2-bedroom is now, is really insane. And so I think the continuing rise of rents, and then our vacancy is just really low. Unfortunately, we don't want people to be evicted, but that will help a little bit with the vacancy rate of as some of the evictions do go through. So the positive side of that is you'll get some vacancies, but then the negative is you'll have more people entering homelessness. So it's going to be a real kind of double-edged sword there. But even with that, even with a small churn, there's still not enough slots as far as housing goes. And so we're just right now, our case managers are really struggling with that. And definitely want to shout out Kitsap Homes of Compassion, Eagles Wings, because they're probably the two providers that are actually adding housing stock, because what they're doing is taking single family homes and then actually they're renting out 3 to 5 rooms. And so that's about the only big significant, at least affordable housing supplies is being added through them. So I think definitely plug, and they don't have many openings either, and it's not right for anyone because they have program agreements, they're not full leases, and that might be a podcast just to bring them on, Marwan, because I think they've got some really good stuff, and Joel and Michelle, and so they're doing really, really good work. But that's about the only way, at least in the affordable section, that we're seeing pretty significant gains, of affordable housing that's kind of ongoing. There's small agencies too, right? They're trying to scale up as fast as they can, but that, they can only go so much. So I'd refer some people there. And then, other people, if you have the ability to double up, I hate recommending that, but that's that's another way we're seeing out of necessity people do that. With our rapid rehousing program, we have that flexibility. If 2 households want to double up, we can count them. The household is only limited as people consider themselves, a household and paying rent together. So we can do that if people would like to combine their income so that they can, rapid rehousing short term, typically move in, or 6 months if they're on a regular rapid rehousing program. So they do have to afford the rent, eventually. So that is an option of doubling up. But that low vacancy and then the even rise of rents over just even this winter really took me by surprise. So that's what I'll say as far as housing challenges.
With things like Eagles Wings, could a regular homeowner follow that model where it's like, what, I don't want to just rent the whole unit out. I want to break it up into, 2 people in a room. Could they do that? Would there be an agency that can help them to qualify so that they could, take vouchers from the government or from BHA?
Yeah, they can definitely do that. We have some shared programs where a voucher, we would just then, the voucher would just be responsible for like a third, if say for a 3-bedroom, they can definitely do that. And I'll just want to kind of add on here when we're talking about the housing stock. I think that this community really needs to get creative. One thing that I was Is it okay if we go over just a bit, Marwan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I was thinking about this that we've talked a little bit about this that some of the grant dollars coming through Commerce are really looking for not just shovel ready projects, but projects that are ready to be utilized within 90 days. And that often takes housing authority out of it because you have to, well, the units that we're looking at are not going to be they're not going to be ready. I mean, we're going to have to go through all the environmental reviews. We're going to have to, do a lot of pre-development work that we don't necessarily have the funding to do without knowing for sure that we're going to get the money. Nonprofits are in the same boat. And so, but one thing we do have is we have brand new houses being built right now, and they're not sold yet. Right up at Bay Vista, we have a huge development going on. And so I've been looking for grant dollars to actually purchase homes that then we can just rent out. And I think
Wow.
while it's a good idea for the housing authority, if I can find the funding, it's also kind of, something that if there's investors out there willing to do this, to buy houses and rent them out to tenant holders, I know it's not a huge return on your investment, but it's not nothing either, right? I mean, we are paying some dollars. It's just going to take somebody with a heart that really wants to do this and can look at, maybe I don't need to make the biggest return on my investment, or there should be some capital money flowing in from somewhere to actually reduce the cost. So, if Commerce was willing to give us 300,000 and we could put in 200,000 and buy a home and rent it out, how many of those can we do?
Right.
They're available. Those new homes are available.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, Jill's exactly right. I mean, because we're developing a smaller project, 9 units in a Minette that will be affordable housing for unhoused folks. But the the issue is it just takes so much time. It's not a quick solution, right? It's a long process for us to secure funding. And Bremerton Housing Authority has been a great partner in a lot of our projects, and they're successful because of that partnership. But it's not a quick solution. So Jill's exactly right. Jill, I love that you're doing that. That would be amazing if you could secure some of those houses. But we also need some investors, or we need some folks that you're not going to make a ton of money, but you will still have you'll be mission focused, right? We need
Yeah.
we need more landlords, local landlords that are mission focused, that are going to say, hey, I'm willing to rent to a voucher. And a voucher is a pretty secure, it's money coming in from Bremerton Housing Authority, even more so than our rapid rehousing programs, right? Because the voucher just is ongoing. So, I mean, a voucher can be pretty positive from the landlord, as you're at least guaranteed a good portion of rent, right?
Yeah.
That the tenant doesn't owe. And so I know, I hope, I hope that there is some landlords that step up, through this process. And there's some landlords already that we got to give a lot of credit towards.
Yeah.
Jim Adrian being one of them, that there's some that are really unseen. And Jim's one of them that do tremendous amount, that work with KCR, work with Bremerton Housing Authority. So there are some folks out there that are doing amazing work, that are really unsung heroes, that do not get the credit that they deserve. But we need more of them, right? Especially for the short term, because they're the ones that actually have control housing supply, right? And that's the name of the game right now. So yeah, I just wanted to second what Jill was saying.
No, I love it. We can go over anytime you want. I mean, this is about you guys coming on and sharing the information that you have. Again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking this time out every Monday out of your busy schedules to provide this information to the community, share your insights and thoughts, um, and just be transparent and explain how things work, because a lot of people don't know, right? So they have all these assumptions and they think, hey, this is how this is, or this should be this way. And it's like, well, we actually agree with you, but we're kind of stuck too. But we're trying to find some ways, and we're actually trying to be solution oriented and come up with these solutions. So if you got something, give us a call, let us know, because we can't think of everything, but it's really powerful. I'll give either one of you the last word.
Well, just thanks again for doing this. It's always fun. It's a fun way to start the week out. So I enjoy it.
Oh, appreciate that.
Thanks, Marwan. Yeah, thank you, Jill. Really, really honored. Always honored to be on here and keep up the good work, Marwan. Appreciate you. You're good, huge community leader right now.
I appreciate you and welcome back. And I will see everybody next Monday. So for Jill, Matt, I'm Marwan. This is the Conduit. We will see you tomorrow. All right, everyone. Have a good one.